All that comes to mind after watching episode 7 is that quote from The Last Jedi, "This is not going to go the way you think." The Acolyte episode 7 choice finally gave us the truth of what happened on Brendok, and I have to say, it definitely didn't go the way I thought it would. It didn't ruin Sol as a character, Master Indara got the biggest redemption in the series thus far, and Mother Anisea proved that she really is Mother. But before we get more into my thoughts, welcome back to my channel. My name is Scotty Holiday, I'm a queer Star Wars creator. Please consider liking, subscribing, and following me on social media for all my latest Star Wars content. The vibe of episode 7 definitely brought me back to what I loved about the series so far: the mystery and intrigue, fantasy and world building, yellow lightsabers, and we got a big hint / confirmation of May and Osha's existence. I also love this trope in media and television where we get to see prior events from a series shown from a different perspective, whether that be the perspective of a different character, an onlooker, or even just a different camera angle, showing us the full picture of what really happened. So all in all, I really liked this episode. The first and main thing I want to focus on are the intentions and decisions of Master Indara and Sol. From what we had been shown of Master Indara up until this episode, I did not like her. She came off as very cold and righteous, but this episode proved that she was neither of those things. What I took for coldness was really her feelings of uncertainty and caution. It's clear she was definitely the level-headed leader to Sol and even Torbin's brash decision-making throughout the episode. I don't think Indara wanted to engage with the Coven at all, but was put in a position where she had no choice but to do so. I think she was perfectly fine with letting them continue to live in their self-imposed isolation so long as they didn't pose an actual threat unprovoked. After Sol discovers the twins and the Coven, instead of jumping into conflict, Indara suggests consulting the Council on how to approach the situation. Even when Indara is forced to meet with the Coven, she wants to go alone, realizing that 4 Jedi barging in would definitely be seen as a threat. After their first encounter with the Coven, Sol tells Indara that he feels connected to Osha, and that she's meant to be his Padawan, worrying that both girls are in danger and that Osha wants to leave with the Jedi. But Indara talks sense into him, saying, "Do not confuse what Osha wants with what you want." In episode 3, Sol's intentions with Osha during her test came off as empathetic and genuine, whereas episode 7 reveals Sol's true intentions were rooted in his own self-interest. Even after testing the twins, learning of their destiny, and the Council's orders against Jedi interference, Sol still won't give up his quest to save the girls, and Indara chastises him for it. She not only calls him out for coaching Osha through her test, but presses him, saying, "Do not alter this little girl's destiny because you have formed an emotional attachment to her." I loved the contrast between Indara and Sol in this episode, where Sol sees the witches as dangerous and something to fear, while Indara shows curiosity and respect for a culture different than her own. Sol cites Osha's forehead marking as a sign of the Coven's evil intentions, but Indara explains that ceremonial markings are customary in many cultures across the galaxy, and even tells May her marking is beautiful, while May explains the Ascension ceremony to them. So many fans were quick to draw comparisons between Sol and Qui-Gon Jinn after the first few episodes of the series, but in episode 7, Master Indara seems to be the one emulating Qui-Gon, telling Torbin not to center around his anxieties, just like Qui-Gon said to Obi-Wan at the beginning of The Phantom Menace. I know a lot of fans were worried that the series would paint the Jedi in a negative light or make them the antagonists, but episode 7 proves that this is simply not the case. The Jedi Order, like any organization, has its flaws. Nothing or no one person is perfect. But the Jedi Council's refusal to separate the twins from their Coven, believing the Jedi on Brendok had already interfered way too much, shows that they do care about the people of the galaxy and have good intentions at heart. Mother Anisea puts it best at the end of the episode when she tells Sol, "Someday those noble intentions you have will destroy every Jedi in the galaxy," foreshadowing how the Order will eventually lose their way and fall. And we see a perfect example of this directly after when Sol stabs and kills Mother Anisea, only for her to reveal to him that she was going to let Osha go. Indara's choice to not reveal the truth of their actions on Brendok to the Council is also another great example of the Jedi's noble intentions, as she's trying to protect Osha, but in lying, she doesn't go about it in the best nor most productive way. I'm not exactly sure what Mother Anisea was planning to do in that moment when she starts dissipating into black smoke that tethers with May, but I guess we'll never know. Now, do you think we could see May and Osha try to use the same power together in the finale based on what we now know of their connection? Let me know down in the comments. On top of Master Indara, May also gets a bit of redemption in this episode as well. Not only do we get a confirmation that she did not start a fire that killed her entire family in Coven, but we learn that she didn't even intentionally start the fire at all. May's words and actions in the lead up to the fire were all brought upon by Mother Coral's guidance due to her own anger and frustration with not only the Jedi, the situation with Osha, but Mother Anisea as well. However, on top of that, Sol did choose Osha over May to save in the end, an impossible choice, but still a choice nonetheless, and even though I had already started feeling sympathy towards May starting back in episode 5, it's hitting me even more now that we really know what happened the night of the fire. Along with some character redemptions, episode 7 also gave us context as to what the Jedi were doing on Brendok in the first place, and it turns out they had been on the planet for the past 7 weeks at this point, studying and taking samples of the plant life, or searching for a vergence, as Sol tells Torbin. Indara explains that Brendok had been catalogued as lifeless 100 years prior after a hyperspace disaster, the Great Disaster that we see play out in the first book released as a part of the High Republic publishing initiative, Light of the Jedi. Later in the episode, the Jedi believe they may have actually uncovered a vergence in the Force after testing May and Osha's blood, discovering that both twins possess not only high midichlorian counts, but identical symbionts, which could only be explained by tapping into something as powerful as a vergence in the Force to create the twins, splitting one consciousness into 2 separate bodies. It's still unclear whether or not a vergence or a Force nexus exists on Brendok, or if May and Osha are the physical embodiment of the vergence, similar to Anakin, and I wonder if this is something that will get explained or shown next week in the finale. Overall, I liked this episode a lot, and it was a welcome return to form after I didn't really vibe with episode 6's direction. The ending fight was fun with some standout moments and stunts, though it did feel a little clunky and slow at times compared to the duels in episode 5. It was great to finally see Kelnacca in action, showing off not only his strength in the Force, but that brute Wookiee strength we always hear so much about and rarely see in this capacity. As I mentioned earlier, I also loved seeing a yellow lightsaber back on my screen, and more of Torbin in general because he's just super cute. His vision from Mother Anisea earlier in the episode was super trippy, but a really interesting and cool look into her magic, watching her play into Torbin's frustrations in both a menacing but seductive way. Of course, I would have loved to spend more time with the Jedi in this episode and really get inside each of their heads, but like I've been repeating, the runtime and number of episodes for these Star Wars Disney Plus series are just way too short and don't allow for it. With that said, I'm really excited for the finale and everything the story has been building to in the past 7 episodes, and I hope it goes out in an epic fashion and we get a satisfying conclusion to this story. So what did you think of episode 7? Let me know your thoughts and what you hope to see in the finale down in the comments below, or join my Discord to continue the conversation there. Make sure to like, subscribe, and consider following me on social media at ScottyHolidaySW for all my latest Star Wars content. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.